Hello, everyone. I'm Ben Johnson, and this is the Perpetual Chess Podcast. On Perpetual Chess, I have weekly conversations with the chess world's best players, promoters, and educators about their lives, careers, current projects, and best practices. Perpetual Chess is brought to you through the generosity of its Patreon and PayPal supporters. For more information, go to perpetualchesspod.com. Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Perpetual Chess. We have a popular guest returning this week. For some reason, he has agreed to come on this show for the third consecutive year. I am not sure why, but we are happy to have him. He is Grandmaster Jan Gustafsson. Jan, thanks for joining us once again.
It's an honor and a privilege to be back.
Okay. And we're just going to set the scene with the little bio that they have on Chess24, as well as some other glowing comments. Jan is the face of Chess24, commenting live on top events, challenging users in Banter Blitz, producing video series, and giving opening advice in his regular clinic. His CV includes winning the 2011 European Team Championship and working on Team Magnus for the World Champions 2016, and now they need to update and say 2018 title defense. How's that for a bio?
I'm impressed by your amount of preparation. You didn't only do Wikipedia, you did Chess24 profile as well. It's amazing.
You can't trust Wikipedia anymore, so gotta branch out.
Fair enough.
But I have some bones to pick with you, Jan, because I came to grips a while ago with the fact that you're way better at chess than me, and that you speak English better than me, and that you're funnier than me. I've accepted all those things, but now you're interviewing top players too. So I don't know where to go in life.
I'm trying to take everything you've got.
Yeah, seriously. But I've enjoyed these interviews with Anish Giri and of course with a person who will be discussing some, Magnus Carlsen. So what's your, let's start from big picture. Now, I watched your whole series on Chess24, which I recommend everyone check out, along with Peter Heine, Nielsen, and Laurent Fressinet, about what it was like to be on Team Magnus. But what's your number one reflection going to be when you think back on this years down the line? What do you think?
For me, really, I maybe shouldn't overuse honor and a privilege, but it really means a lot to be involved with something in the chess world that matters. Well, I think we talked about this last time. Of course, I care about my own games and my shows and all that stuff. But to be working on a world championship match is just such a thrill. While you're in it, you're just trying to, we need to fix this, or we still don't have an idea against the Petrov. So it's not joyful. It's a lot of work, but I'm just, very happy to be involved with it. And obviously happier since Magnus won again.
Yeah, it was an entertaining match, despite, people grumbling about the draws. The games themselves were entertaining, and, going to a playoff is always good in my mind. But since you mentioned the Petrov, we might as well just follow up on that. So obviously no surprise that Fabiano ventured that, but your months of research didn't uncover anything too testing for it?
Well, I think you could see that in the match. No real hot takes here, but in general, that White was struggling a little bit to put pressure, while with Black, it's somewhat easier these days to have a set repertoire, whether you want to be very solid the way Fabiano did, or a bit more double-edged, but still a tight repertoire the way Magnus did it. Normally, priority number one is to have your Black business in order. And then with White, it's tough. It's much hit or miss, and as you can tell from the games, there was a lot of missing. Even though I think in the first tiebreak game, Magnus got in a very nice little idea. It wasn't against the Petrov, but this c4, whatever, it was e5, knight c3, knight f6, g3, bishop b4, e4, and got a great position there. So it wasn't all bleak. But overall, I think with Black, life was good. With White, it was tough.
Yeah. And what, I have a lot of sort of behind the scenes of behind the scenes, because you guys did this awesome series on Chess24 that, again, I'll link to it in the show description. You guys should already be subscribed to Chess24, but if you aren't, you can also buy it a la carte, and I think it's like $12 or something, which, by the way, is not enough, but
bargain.
Yeah, it really is. So behind the scenes of behind the scenes, one thing I wondered is like, how far in advance do you start to shape the repertoire, and how far in advance do you even know you're going to be on the team?
I'm not sure into how much detail I can go there, but I knew a couple months in advance, and there were a couple training camps beforehand, and then you go to the match. So work obviously goes into it, but you never really know, especially with White. You're going very broad. Like, he played D4, he played C4, he played E4. So you never really know what exactly is going to happen during a match, what the score will be, how you want to adjust, how the boss feels, and so on and so forth. So it's very different than sketching out a repertoire and plans beforehand to the day-to-day while you're actually playing the match.
Gotcha. And so, okay, so you're involved a couple months in advance, and for the chess world, Magnus, as you mentioned, he played slightly more dynamically as black than Fabiano did, surprised a lot of people with Sveshnikov. At what point did you know that was going to be part of the repertoire?
There's different options, and frankly, I don't know what point the final decision was made where to go, but obviously it's a topic that comes up in preparation because, as mentioned, with black, it's sort of easier to, sketch out a repertoire. I'll do this against that, and I'll do this against that, than with White, where you don't know. For example, you played D4 in the first game. You don't know, will he play Queen's Gambit Decline? Will he play Grunfeld? Will he play, whatever, name any opening? So, yeah, that's known in advance. We had this sort of running gag during the Olympiad where Laurent Fressinet, my co-second, or my superior, I should say, had supervising powers, was playing, and I was the Dutch team captain, and every game I would go to his board to have a very close eye on his opening, that he wouldn't spill any secrets.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask about that stuff. I mean, you've got the tournament in Thailand coming up, which, I mean, now that it's already happened, if something were to come up in one of your games, I know you don't treat your chess as seriously as you alluded to as a world championship match, but would you now be feel free to use whatever came up in your analysis?
It's always a gray area, and it depends on people's individual deals and whatnot. For me, my repertoire, I'm not sure, is that affected, and I'll be more worried about how can I create winning chances against all these underrated, tricky guys I'll be facing, than how do I break Fabiano Caruana. So I'm not too worried about revealing secrets there.
Yeah,
but it's a gray area. Obviously, you don't want to give away all the ideas Magnus could use in the future, but you also want to make sort of the best moves. So it's tricky.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned in our last interview, like this idea of a theoretical novelty does not play the role that it used to, because every move has been at least looked at with a computer.
Right.
So, but I still want to get a little bit more. I'm interested in the Sveshnikov in particular because it just seemed, I mean, Magnus didn't have that much experience playing it. So, for an opening like that, does an order come down from on high that you're going to prep this, or does one of the seconds say, "Hey, I have an idea," or how did it work in this case?
First of all, I don't think it's true he didn't have much experience playing it. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I'm fairly certain he's played it quite a bit over the last 10 years. So it's one of the openings that's always lurking in his repertoire. And as for where the order comes down to, I don't know. It's a very fluid process, but obviously Magnus in the end decides what he's comfortable with and what he's not comfortable with. So he's in charge.
But you make it sound like maybe you guys had a couple, or at least one other thing in mind against E4 if the Sveshnikov seemed to be working out pretty well. I mean, the Rossolimo wasn't yielding much for White, and then even when Fabiano started playing that knight D5 line, as you guys were saying in the series, the computer might say that White has a small edge, but it's a fun position for both sides.
Yeah, that's sort of the approach, even though as a second you still want to solve the problems. Of course, it's great to have this human layer of arguably the best player ever. Even if things somewhat go wrong, you still don't say, okay, this is a crappy position, but best of luck, you're a good player. As for other lines prepared, yeah, I'm glad we didn't have to use the hippopotamus, which was the backup plan.
Right.
But seriously, obviously, I can't go into detail there.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect you to say which variation of, we're always interested in how the sausage gets made in these world-class preparations. And do you, I mean, I know that we've discussed your great affinity and your voracious reading of chess books here in the past on the show, but I'm kidding. But I mean, secretly, I don't want to sell you short because, you don't get to be your level of chess without having done your work. But let's say that right now you're not as steeped in chess literature as some other people. You're a lot of the work you do is on engines. But for something like a world championship match, are you like digging deep into the history, or is that something you kind of feel like you know pretty well as it is?
What history are we talking about?
Like the history of world championship matches and teams prepping stuff, and obviously in the series with Laurent Fressinet and Peter Heine and Nielsen, you guys referenced a lot of the world championship matches within the past 20 years, which you guys have lived through. But even stuff beyond that, is that like, do you read up on Kasparov versus Karpov and stuff like that, or is that just like, come on, you already know this stuff?
I think you have more pressing needs, especially in my position where you're just a second working on openings. But we have guys like Peter Heine, who's, I don't know his record, but he's been involved in, 6 of the last 7 world championship matches. And I think he's won every time. So, of course, he has a lot of experience with what to do in what situation and what happened there and what happened then. And even though I like to downplay my chess book reading, all of us are reasonably well educated on chess history, I would say. So I don't think it's something you think about during the match, like what happened in Botvinnik-Bronstein here, but it's there in the background. Okay.
That's interesting. And speaking of the team, I mean, one untold mystery that we've got to get to from the behind the scenes of the behind the scenes is, you guys didn't mention it in the video series, but it subsequently came out that Daniil Dubov, young talented Russian grandmaster, was also involved in the team. So was he chilling with you guys in Thailand or off in another clandestine location, or what?
The thing is, I'm thinking generally it's Magnus's job to break who's been involved and in what capacity. And I'm not quite sure I should read up on my chess news what has been made public and what not. So I'm not fully comfortable giving too many details there.
You'll have to ask Magnus on the next time he pops into Chess 24.
Like what I can say on my next Perpetual Chess appearance,
or no, just ask him the question. I'm not in this for ego gratification. We just want the word to be out there.
No. But seriously, it's always a fine line. It's not like it's any secrets, but yeah, I think it's up to Magnus what he wants revealed and what he doesn't want revealed. In this case, I'm not fully sure what has been revealed and what hasn't.
Gotcha.
But
so we'll have to...
Obviously, he was involved.
So during the next World Championship, we'll just have to search the resorts of Thailand and draw our own conclusion.
That's right. Check out the guest list. Some aliases might have been used.
And were there other people involved as well? For example, Laurent Fressinet sort of alluded to another mystery person in the video who may or may not have been the aforementioned Daniil Dubov. He said he was having a conversation with another second when the three of you were sitting there. But anyway, I mean, are there other people sort of tangentially involved with like training games and stuff like that?
He might have meant our boy Niels Grandelius.
Ah, right, yeah. Yeah.
But other than that, I have to go back to my previous answer. It's up to Magnus to break who was involved and who wasn't.
Okay, continue to plead the fifth. And speaking of training games, I mean, who has the what's the word? The dreadful job of being Magnus's training partner?
I think it's normally the better players. So normally Peter Heine and I get to chill, and but no, it's not a tight schedule where you say training games against this guy from then till then and so on.
But I
I have
imagine
some still unreleased footage, which I should use someday, of some fun games between Laurent and Magnus. Because Laurent, he's very feisty, even at his advanced age. He's a serious blitz player, so there were some fun games, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 37 years young, peak rating of 2720. And he was making an allusion to some game against Magnus where he almost got him. So I tried to dig into what game that was, but there were too many games for me to figure it out. But in any event, yeah, a worthy training partner.
That's for sure. And yeah, I think Dubov also spoke about that. They played a lot of games. Dubov, obviously, we've seen after winning the World Rapid, a fantastic speed player. So yeah, I'm sure they did a lot of playing too.
And speaking of speed, so as we know, Magnus Carlsen won the World Championship ultimately in the rapid tiebreak. I mean, as someone who's on the team but not there in London, and as you say, Peter Heine Nielsen is kind of heading the team and probably talking more strategy. I mean, it's kind of common sense, but like, how aware were you guys as the second half of the match comes around that a tiebreak match would be a fairly desirable outcome at that point?
Yeah, I guess Magnus's record in tiebreaks is well documented, but I guess it's dangerous, and I'm not sure if he did much thinking about this to think, okay, I need to draw my 5 remaining games at this level. That's, dangerous thinking, even though clearly in the last game he was fine with it, as indicated by his draw offer, in a very good position because he liked his chances in the tiebreaks and, came through, as we've all seen. But other than that, like, you can sort of tell from the openings played. Our job is to give opening suggestions that he felt, especially with the score being level for so long, that a tiebreak was not a bad outcome, but I don't think it was ever discussed like, okay, we just need to make 3 more draws and we're there.
Okay. And of course the game 12, and once again to mention your recap, you guys do a really good job sort of talking through Magnus's decision to take a draw in the position that surprised a lot of people. I think most prominently Garry Kasparov and Vladimir Kramnik were quite outspoken when it happened, and you obviously are there in Thailand sweating the matches. How surprised were you on a scale of 1 to 10 when this clocks were stopped and suddenly the game was declared a draw?
I was mainly annoyed. I was already mentally planning my 3 days in Pattaya after he won the 12th game.
Champagne on ice. Yeah.
Champagning and campaigning. But no, I wasn't overly surprised because, you could sort of tell that he thought a tiebreak would be a decent outcome. I think he even said publicly before the 12th game, if he wants to play, we play. If not, I'm happy with a draw or something. I'm paraphrasing something along those lines. So that wasn't shocking, but of course, we were just watching the game as it went on. And then, of course, you have engines running and you see, he has this, whatever it was, Bishop A4 business, and the computer gives 150. So we got excited and got our hopes up. But then once the result is there, you really just start thinking, okay, we have 4 tiebreak games. What can we do in these games? Like, what openings do we play? And you don't reminisce much, he should have played on or he shouldn't. Like, that's not the job. Yeah,
I mean, it was quite the kerfuffle, though. Did it surprise you, the amount of backlash that it sort of generated, given that obviously his incentive is quite clear? I mean, he's doing what he thinks maximizes his probability of winning the match.
Yeah, I think you and I were used to thinking in terms of EV and whatnot. And there, especially with his mind being a little made up, it seemed like in this 12th game, I thought it was a very decent decision because I've never seen him lose a tiebreak match or really losing in any do-or-die situation. So I thought it was a fine sporting decision, and also I have a lot of faith in Magnus knowing what's best for him. I didn't buy for a second that he was cracking under the pressure. I think, he had made up his mind. And remember that in 2016, against Kayakin, he did a very similar thing where he was white in the last game and he more or less just made a quick draw and there's rookie won Berlin exchanging all the pieces, where people will also say, wow, he's throwing away a white game. But it's just, optimizing his chances to win the title, and I was fine with it.
Yeah, makes sense. And, speaking of thinking probabilistically, I noticed in the video, Peter Heine Nielsen also seems to have this mental training, or he seems to approach things with this framework, and Magnus sort of famously does as well. Do you know if that's something that he's sort of that comes naturally to him, or like sort of a skill that he's consciously developed? Because it's so important for a top level chess player to be practical.
I don't know. I can't really speak for him. What I do know is that he's an incredibly smart guy, and he knows his stuff in many different fields. But Peter Heine is a bit of a game theory enthusiast as well, so I'm sure they're having more of these conversations, but I haven't been around Magnus talking that much about these things. As a chess fan, it looks to me a bit like he's gotten somewhat more practical when it comes to just wrapping up a tournament win or even a world championship match win over the last couple of years. When I recall, could be wrong about this, in the 2013 match he needed a draw against Vichy and he could more or less go for a move repetition, but he decided to play on. So it feels a bit to me, but I'm not sure if that's accurate, that younger Magnus would just not think very much about the result, but go for the maximum pretty much every time.
Gotcha.
While Magnus, age 28, is a bit more focused on, getting the results, which I'm not sure if it's experience or energy management or a bit of both. But, he does come through.
Okay. All right, a couple more important questions on Magnus, Jan, and then we'll move on if that sounds reasonable to you. Sports. So were you ever what's the word, roped into any of these sports? I mean, I know you weren't in London, but prior to that, like soccer games, table tennis, whatever, were you ever a victim of Magnus's legendary competitive spirit and forced to run around and stuff?
It's tough. I normally fake an injury early in the training camp, or I'm so sick I can't play football or paddle or table tennis or whatnot today. So the other guys had to do more of the heavy lifting there. But seriously, I think, it's important, obviously, to get into physical shape. And Magnus, he's more of a, I was going to say team sports, but I think one-on-one sports is fine with him as well, while I normally like to just go to the gym and hope nobody sees me.
Right.
So...
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think I've had the honor of playing any sport with you. Do you have any that you played as a youth?
I play a bit of table tennis. I played a bit of football, but I can't really claim any glorious achievements in those fields.
Okay. All right. And last question. Let's suppose that I had a real job and that I was going to try to get them to send me to Thailand. For work. How would you recommend I do that?
Well, you need to get your story straight. Like, you should argue some stuff like it's gonna be better to work with the time difference, because if not, if we start preparing at midnight and then are done at 10 a.m., we'll be all tired and the work won't be very good. Well, if you have this 6-hour difference, then we can just start working early in the morning and be done at 6 p.m. And that's much better. And also, sunshine helps with getting less depressed about the Petrov than rainy London.
Right.
So I think, even though obviously I was hugely in favor of it, that it's also a completely sound decision. And we did the same thing during the New York match in 2016, where we were in Norway, where weather was less good, but the same logic applies, that you have the 6 or 7 hour time difference, which means the seconds can start working early in the morning as opposed to in the middle of the night, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, it does make sense, and I think it was a brilliant stroke on your part. So when you had
Thank you.
you're welcome. And
You know, we checked different locations. I had like a 6-7 hour time difference, and yeah, some maneuvering had to be done to make sure it's Thailand and not, let's say, Vladivostok or one of those
right,
places. They're also in that time zone. No offense to Vladivostok.
right, that's funny. And as you mentioned in the video series, if the next World Championship were to be in Norway, which at least there've been some rumblings about, you're well set up for the next match.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'll be involved in the next one, but I think I did a lot of great work for seconds of the future that they can chill in Thailand.
Excellent. Yeah. Cool. And let's see, couple more on this match. Again, something that you guys touched upon, but it's pretty important. So, of course, Magnus had this interview after the match where he said he wasn't even sure he would play in the next World Championship. I think he's a little bit bored of the classical format. But just in case people haven't seen this video, what's your somewhat informed, somewhat uninformed opinion about how likely we are to see him defend his title?
My guess is as good as yours. I guess I asked him about this in one of the interviews I did with him as well, and I can't remember the answer actually. My hunch is he's a competitor and he will play, but he's also not making this critique of the time control and the big influence of openings nowadays up. Like, that's how he feels, and I can't speak for him. As a chess fan, I hope that we'll get more matches out of him. That's all I can say about it. I have no clue.
Yeah, and you also said that you're reasonably happy with the format overall. Is that accurate?
Yeah, like you could argue about, I don't know, maybe 16 games or 18 games instead of 12 to make the price of one game a little lower so people can play a bit more freely. And I'm also not against incorporating rapid or blitz or whatever into the format. But in general, especially with some of the messes we've had in the past, it feels like nowadays we have a reasonably stable candidates tournament, a cycle to qualify for the candidates tournament, and then a match, which, I think it's all right. But I also don't have to play these matches. So it's, as a fan and as, someone who likes the subtleties of top-level chess, I find them entertaining and interesting. But, of course, I hear the critique, which I think in a large part also stems from the fact that we had, 22 out of 24 draws in the last two games, in the last two matches, which, of course, is unfortunate from a, selling it standpoint. But I feel like things could have gone very differently if we look at game one of this match, or, there were many games where one of the sides was in trouble, and similarly games 3 and 4 of the last match, that it played out this way, and then in the end, when the pressure is mounting, it could be that makes a draw somewhat more of a likely result, but I don't feel the format is necessarily to blame, and there's a lot of small sample size theater involved too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, there definitely things could have really shaken loose with just one decisive result at any point in the match. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, no one agrees, so no one agrees on what should be done. So maybe they should do as little as possible. I'm not sure. I think if I were Czar, I would go with 16 or 18 game match and tiebreak before the playoff, and that's it. But I mean, tiebreak before the match. You know what I mean? All right.
That's weird, though. Don't you use the tiebreak to break a tie?
Yeah, that's the idea. But I mean, it's been argued that if they know in advance who wins based on the tiebreak, then there can be no tie in the classical format. So it just would kind of tilt the scales to more fighting chess in the classical. There's not going to be, someone's going to be playing to win in the last game, basically.
Yeah, I get the logic. I don't know. We've basically had that when the world champion had draw odds in a lot of the matches in the past. No,
yeah, we have.
Tie breaks are a better way to settle it. But as you said, everyone has their opinion. I just think, big picture wise, things aren't so bad.
Okay. Yeah, sounds reasonable. And speaking of, you mentioned the candidates, and I re-listened to our last interview where we correctly predicted every detail of that
Boom.
Last year's
Live on
candidates.
crushed it.
Yeah, exactly. No, not quite. You had some incisive analysis, but we did not correctly predict the winner. But despite that, I'm going to ask you for more predictions. Do you have anyone, like, if you were to pick one or two people as the most likely? It has to be more than one, actually, because one is, I think, fairly obvious who you would pick. Who do you think would be the most likely challenger in 2020 for the crown?
Yeah, I asked Magnus the same thing, and he was right last time when he predicted Caruana, and he still said that he feels Caruana is a bit ahead of the competition. So we're talking most likely I'll go with Fabi again, but the level at the top is very high, and these guys are fairly close. Plus, you need a good tournament and so many things breaking your way that I wouldn't give him more than, I don't know what a fair number is, like a 25% chance to come through. But currently, we have no reason to not have Fabi as the favorite with his run in 2018 and how he played in the match.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm looking forward to seeing him getting back out there. He's been pretty quiet since the match.
Also, he's the only one who's already qualified, right? Which must help.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, it's definitely from a handicapping perspective that gives him a big leg up.
Right.
Okay, a couple opening questions, sort of related to the match.
Finally.
Yeah, you're so. I mean, this is somewhat embarrassing, but I hadn't watched any of your opening clinics until within the last year.
Very hurtful.
You really know your stuff. Really amazing. You're not just freewheeling and BSing your way through these opening variations.
So you thought Magnus hires me for my looks, yeah?
I thought it was for your wit. You know, someone's got to.
Yeah, fair enough. I think so too, actually.
No, I mean, obviously, whatever. I'll move on. So, so it seemed like you guys mentioned that you felt like you did the best in the English, in terms of achieving the goal of getting a, not necessarily like a distinct edge, but a dynamic position from which White can try to apply pressure. Because the Petrov and the Queen's Gambit decline are just so solid and so well explored that it's tough to find fresh ideas that would get Fabiano on unfamiliar terrain. But I was curious, like, I expected to see more of sort of, or at least it wouldn't have surprised me to see more sort of outright punts with White, like something like e4, e5, bishop c4, avoiding the Petrov and stuff like that, or being that White is struggling so much, just more sort of.
Hang on, let me take some notes. E4, E5, BC4.
Yeah, can I get like residuals on that?
Yeah. But seriously speaking, first of all, we gotta give Caruana and his team a lot of credit. It's not like we didn't know anything about the Queen's Gambit declined and he just recited known theory and made an easy draw. They came up with fresh ideas everywhere, like this Rook D8 he had in the Queen's Gambit, then this Queen D8 back he had in the second Queen's Gambit, then this C5 Bishop E6 line he played in the Petrov. All of these are very fresh concepts at the highest level, and they clearly had put a lot of thought into it and had a lot of weapons that both came as a surprise and can stand the test of time from what I've seen so far, which is very impressive to do. So mainly, yeah, kudos to them. Obviously, you have your ideas in areas where things could go well, but it's not as simple as, oh, we need to avoid the Petrov and play E4, E5, Bishop C4, which, by the way, Magnus has done a couple times.
Right, yeah.
Even against Caruana himself, right? So it's not like he's out of book if you move that bishop. Like.
Right, not out of book, but I just feel like the positions, they're not as theoretical, I would say.
Yeah, that depends, like how much time you spend looking at them, right? Like,
okay. So basically, you're saying there's no escape.
I don't know. I'm saying E4, E5, Bishop C4, for example, I don't think would come as much of a surprise after Carlsen had used it against Caruana. And once you start looking at really any line, like E4, E5, Bishop C4, Knight F6, what do they do? D3, either C6 or Knight C6 there. It's also not just, roll the ball out and play some chess. It's still fighting against the game, liquidating without your opponent having to think. Chess is tough.
Yeah, that it is. Okay, and was there any, obviously you're not going to reveal this, Prep, but was there any like one idea that the team was really hoping would make an appearance on the board? Was there...
Well, you'd hope there was more than one idea.
Okay, but not, I just meant like one above all others, like...
One move to rule them all. No, there were plenty of ideas in different lines, but as Kazimchanov said, I don't know, did he say that? Like, it's like an iceberg, 97% of the work doesn't get shown and so on. So, no, obviously you hope for stuff, but it doesn't always happen. The other guys are pretty smart.
Yeah.
I was going to say pretty smart too, but then I thought that's not accurate. They're pretty smart.
All right. Speaking of pretty smart, you revealed some analysis in the video about queen and knight versus queen and bishop. So for anyone who's not familiar with this sort of received wisdom in chess, I think most listeners will be, but obviously generally bishop considered an advantage over the knight, all other things being equal, except queen and knight, as we are taught as kids, can actually be an advantage against queen and bishop. But I understand you did some huge data analysis on this topic.
I might have made up some statistics, but I do think that I looked into it, and queen bishop actually do outperform queen knight slightly, because I was taught the same thing. Queen knight, they combine so well, and they're a great attacking force, which is of course true in many positions. But overall, as a lover of bishops, I couldn't believe that queen knight would be superior to queen bishop, other things being equal, and I was right.
Excellent. You'll have to do a Chess 24 video series on debunking this myth.
Boom, that sounds like a best-selling series.
Okay. Bangkok Chess Club Open, I believe it's called, although for some reason I always just refer to it as the Thai Open. You've got that coming up next month. How's your chess game?
It's rusty. I haven't played much in the last, let's say, 8 months. I had one game in Bundesliga where I played absolutely horribly. Didn't know how the pieces were moving. So I'm going to have to do some stuff. I need some advice from you. You're doing all these adult improver series. What do I have to do to get back in shape? I have 1 month.
I can't
how
reveal
do I distribute my time?
I
have 60 hours. What percentage tactics, openings, analyze my own games? What should I do?
Sorry, you have to listen to the 5 hours worth of interviews on this topic in order to get that information. And anything that was left on the cutting room floor, I cannot reveal. It's
that sounds fair.
Just not my place. No, I mean, I guess you should do tactics, being that you already know every opening. So, but it's hard work. Those tactics.
That's what I want people to know. Hard work sounds tough.
Yeah.
All right, tactics. Is it simple tactics or tough tactics?
Tough tactics, unfortunately.
No, I think you're wrong on that one. I think Paco Vallejo, he had the same point, that in order to get into shape, one should do simple tactics. Just, work on the reflexes and not try to drive yourself crazy solving some Dvoretsky puzzles where you just get frustrated and you feel like, I can't play at all, because that normally leads to time trouble if you're a bit rusty anyway and you feel like I really need to penetrate the essence of the position. It's still a useful exercise to improve your understanding long term. But I think to get into shape for guys like me, it should be simple tactics, like grab a book or the tactic trainer of your choice and try to do some simple stuff just so your reflexes are working.
Yeah,
I could be wrong though, but that's my plan. Might be just an excuse so I don't have to do any tough stuff.
No, that makes sense. I mean, it's like brushing up on a language or an instrument. I mean, specifically if you're out of form, I guess that makes sense. But here on our Adult Improver series, people are grinding hard. So, right. I mean, not me, mind you, but the people working on their game are, if you're studying every day, it makes sense to challenge yourself. All right. Coaching the Netherlands at the Olympiad. How was did you, I know you mentioned Rocky in our last interview. Did you give some inspiring talks to, Grandmasters Erwin Lamy and Anish Giri and Van Wheelie and so on?
Well, clearly it didn't work. Like if you look at the final result, even though I did give some pretty touching speeches. Like, I had them in tears, but I think it might have been a bit too much. They got so worked up that they couldn't focus on their games. But seriously, no, it's a nice team. I like all these guys, and it was a lot of fun being around them, even though, of course, we very much ran out of gas in the end, like I think losing the last 2 or 3 matches. So the final result was very disappointing, which...
So you're like a Tom Thibodeau style coach. You rode your players too hard, and they just couldn't maintain at the end.
Yeah, actually, that is what happened, because if you have a player like Luke Van Vele, he's like an 18 minutes per game guy these days. But we lost one player along the way, Sergei Tivyakov, who had to deal with an emergency at home. So I had to play these guys every game, and you could see that it was like a James Harden situation. Once you get to the playoffs, no gas left in the tank.
Bummer, but you enjoyed the experience nonetheless?
Greatly, yeah. I love being around Chess Olympiads. It's a very different form of inspiring event. Like I mentioned how much I like the World Championship match, but there you're sitting alone in some jacuzzi in 30 degrees sun in Thailand. While
right. Go on.
Well, the Olympiad, everyone's there. It's such for chess standards, it's not the faces you run into at every Open. Yeah, it's a very inspiring atmosphere, this Genzuna Sumos, and to see how much chess is played all over the world. So I love being there. Even though the matches are quite tough as a captain, because you're sort of stuck in the playing hall. You're not allowed to leave, and you have to sign the score sheet or 1.5 loss in the end. So normally I was just sitting there for 6-7 hours reading my book.
Yeah, no gadgets either. So that's tough. So, well, what were you reading? Do you remember?
What's it called? It's called the Patrick Melrose novels.
Okay.
It's pretty good stuff. It's a messed up guy with dirty thoughts. Sometimes some messy stuff would happen, like some, heavy drug use or some bad things being done to kids in my book, and my facial expression would change. And then my players told me, okay, stop looking so panicked all the time. No, it's just Patrick Melrose getting in trouble.
That's
good books.
Okay.
Edward St. Auburn, the Patrick Melrose novels.
Okay.
I think it's also a TV show with, what's called? Benedict Cumberbatch, which I haven't seen yet.
Okay.
That's the first. I read the book, but I haven't seen the TV show, so I'm proud of that fact.
All right. Now we'll have to get you back for the TV review. But did you have a chance to play for Germany at this Olympiad?
I don't know. I'm not very active, and I'm not campaigning very much to make the team. But no, I haven't played since 2012, so I don't think so.
Because your rating would still, it seems, be in the top 4 or 5, but I guess out of sight, out of mind.
I don't know. I'm right here. Banter Blitz coming up in 40 minutes. I think they just don't watch enough Banter Blitz. All the playing I do gets zero recognition. Yeah,
that must be it. Do you, if given a choice between playing and coaching, which do you think you would prefer at this stage of your life?
It's hard to say. When it comes to prefer, I kind of like being there, but not having the grind of playing, because then, I was incredibly busy as a coach, but it's still not the same pressure that I feel when you have to prepare and go play your own game. So as an experience, I probably prefer the coaching, but I'm also sort of old-fashioned in a way that I think it's an honor to play for the national team. So should it happen again, which looks doubtful at this point, then, I would feel, duty is too strong, but I would feel a strong urge to represent the country.
Okay.
Still, I can't complain at all. I'm very happy with the Dutch job, and sad the Olympiad didn't go better, so I hope they'll have me back, but I don't know yet.
Yeah, you'll find out in due time. Okay, one more real topic, and then just a little bit of nonsense, and then we'll let you rest up for your banter blitz. Some more nonsense.
Wow. How dare you?
All right, so I warned you we were going to actually talk some chess games. Your favorite Jan Gustafsson chess game?
Wow. Actually, I thought about it. I'm pretty sure you asked me this question last time, but I can't remember.
No, because I re-listened.
Answer.
I wouldn't have remembered, but I re-listened, and yeah, I didn't ask you. So let's
maybe
have
on
it.
our first show.
That could be. I didn't re-listen to that one. Too painful. To listen to myself.
I recall the circumstances. No, I hate it. To my own voice. Just come to.
You, of course, were a seasoned pro already. But anyway, go on.
What was I going to say? I think I gave some corny answer like, I hope my best game lies in the future. Which, well, it hasn't happened since then, so I'm still waiting. But seriously, no, I don't think about my games in those terms. So I wouldn't know. Like, I normally enjoyed the ones where my preparation to keep playing on the stereotype worked very well. I had a nice game against Naiditsch, I think, in the European Championship 2007, where I won with black without having to break a sweat because I knew everything, which is not much of an achievement, but still made me very happy. I had a very good game preparation-wise against Rodshtein in one of these World Cups. It's all 10 years in the past. Food for thought. But yeah, I don't really know.
Okay. All right. Well, we coax that qualifies. We coax some answers out of you. I'll link to them in the description. And what about your favorite overall game? Non-Jan Gustafsson category.
Those I'm less familiar with. The Evergreen. No, I don't know. I like some of the games the Chinese guys played recently. I enjoyed this game Wei Yi won against Bruzon. Thought that was a cool game.
Oh yeah, that was the modern. What did they call it? The modern some catchy name for a modern match.
I think I did a video and I called it, what did I call it? Game of the Century or something like that.
Yeah,
and a lot of pushback because people think there's other games played in the century as well. Anyway, I enjoyed that one, and I also enjoyed this game by, I'm not sure I know the names. Ding Liren was black and Bai Jinishi, or sorry if I'm bungling that name, but Ding Liren sacrificing the house there.
Okay.
I think Chinese League, let's say 2017. That's not a spectacular game.
I might need a link for that one, Jan. Although I'll try to track it down on my own.
You'll mash.
And stories either from the Olympiad. You know, obviously, I'm always asking you for book recommendations and stuff. But drinking, gambling, you must have something just on the edge where no one will hurt you for revealing it, but it will still entertain our listeners.
No, you know what the problem is in this day and age that we live in? Like normally the highlight of any Olympiad is the so-called Bermuda party, which is before the rest day, and people get wasted and funny things happen. But nowadays, everyone's filming everything, like these smartphones. You need to do it like, who does it? I think Dave Chappelle. That you have to hand in
check the phones in, yeah.
Right. Because you really can't misbehave anymore because you know everything will be all over Facebook, Instagram, you name it, the next day. So there's no more stories. Nothing's happening because we're all too conscious of our brand.
Huh. And are you an exception to this rule, or are you guilty as well?
I've been boring before social media. So
okay.
It doesn't change my life that much. But I do think it's true. Like that, yeah, there's literally videos of the Bermuda party going up all over the place the next day, so people don't really misbehave anymore.
No, bummer. Okay, so we'll let you slide on that. And speaking of the drinking, what's in the Chess 24 mug when you're doing the banter blitzes and announcing? Is it always coffee, always water, or is it like depending on your mood?
Normally, I just drink too much coffee over the day. Recently, I've been battling with Hamburg Winter, which I'm guessing is similar to. Where are you at again?
Princeton.
To Princeton Winter?
Yeah.
So everyone has the flu, so I've been drinking some like green tea and boring stuff. But yeah, normally I drink too much coffee.
Okay. Yeah, likewise. All right. Nonsense. So we need your Netflix recommendations, Jan.
Do you have a script you follow, like 80 Magnus questions and nonsense? Like what's the plan here?
That's accurate, yeah. But don't worry, this is the last thing.
No, I'm not worried.
Got to close with the nonsense.
Well, we can't upset Donnie Ariel. When is the Donnie Ariel episode coming?
You know, I asked him for some questions for. Well, we'll get to when he's coming on, but I asked him for some questions, but he didn't ask anything that I would deem safe for work or for a family-friendly audience. So I can't repeat the questions that he asked me, although he says he's asked you them before. So I mean, there's nothing too off-brand, but nonetheless, he has an image to cultivate. As do we all. So
I'm very curious now. Anyway.
And as for when he'll be on the show, unfortunately, he's interviewing for jobs, so it's an especially bad time. But sooner or later, we'll get him on and then edit anything out remotely controversial, which will be the whole interview. Okay.
He told me he has 2 weeks off between jobs, which seems like a perfect time slot to me to play the Thailand Open. And yeah, I think there's like a 0.08% chance it will happen.
Wow, if he's going, I don't know. I might have to disappear from my family.
Yeah,
but I'll take my chances.
All right. So show recommendations. I don't know. I haven't been watching that much. Like, I'm watching True Detective season 3, which is very slow. It's good. It's good acting and all that stuff. But sometimes I lose track of stuff because not much is going on. I'm not as tuned into pop culture as I used to be. You know how it is. I'm a family man.
I mean, what's going on? You said you haven't watched an NBA game. You're not watching TV series. You're losing your fastball. That's a baseball metaphor.
Thanks. Let's see. Wow, this is embarrassing that I have to think about this. No, actually, I've been like a movie student recently. I'm trying to catch up on the Oscar movies, so I'm watching all this pretentious stuff like Can You Ever Forgive Me or Burning or Roma. I'm very caught up on the art of independent cinema. Burning is a fantastic movie.
Okay.
Like South Korean independent filmmaking. This is my new niche that I'm gonna try to stake out. But
cool.
No, I haven't watched much, I have to admit. Makes me sad to think about it.
That dang World Championship match.
Yeah, you already have no friends, and you still don't find time for watching TV. It's upsetting. What are you up to? What does Ben Johnson's life look like when you're not chess coaching, podcasting, driving your kids around? Like, do you go out? Do you have a beer with your new Princeton Ivy League elite friends? What do you do?
Well, I mean, now I'm only an hour from Philly, so I actually see, your arch enemy Greg Shahade once in a while.
Wow, that's
see some other old friends, but I mean, it's very rare. I'm lucky if I socialize once a month. Mostly, it's just the daddy and work grind. But I wanted to ask you: have you seen Atlanta? Important question.
I've seen season 1. I haven't seen season 2 yet.
Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it. It's weird. It's a bit too smart for me. Like, normally he has stuff to say, and I just want a dumb joke or a murder mystery so I can sort of follow. Okay. While a lot of the cultural commentary is a bit over my head, but I did enjoy it, obviously. Very well crafted, clever stuff.
Yeah, I would say season 2 is even more like that. I like season 2 better, but it's probably even artsier. So do with that information as you please. Okay, Jan, what's going on with Chess 24? You have any video series we should be looking out for? Anything you're announcing coming up?
I know we just published Laurent Fressinet's series on the Berlin, which we're trying to make chess even more boring, so giving people a Black Berlin repertoire. But I was producing the series, which means I was sitting in the next room doing nothing while he was recording, and I think it's excellent. So if you're looking for an E4, E5, or a repertoire with Black against 1E4, I think that's good. Yeah, now that I have to get in shape for Thailand Open, I'll be working on some openings. I'll be filling some gaps and probably releasing some stuff. Other than that, the Chess 24 anniversary is coming up. I'm not sure when this will be published. February 24th. There will be a big day of shows with maybe some very big names.
Oh, interesting. Unfortunately, this is going to come out the 26th unless...
wow, rigged.
But it will be archived, your big names, huh?
Yeah, the big names, they normally make the archives.
Okay, so people can still check for it after the fact. No announcing gigs with GM Svidler lined up currently, or that can be revealed
some stuff
at least?
in the making. Yeah, we did Vaikanzai, and there will be more, the most likely. But I shouldn't speak out. Like, there's a lot of talks, but yeah, we'll be doing more talking for sure.
Excellent. All right. Well, Jan, thank you as always. I'm glad we haven't completely run out of things to talk about yet. But I really appreciate it whenever you're able to bless us with your presence.
Wow, you're making it sound like I'm not sitting at home every single day waiting for you to ask me to reappear on the PCC, as I like to call it.
PCP.
PCP?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do I think PCC? Because I can't spell probably. But PCP sounds wrong.
It does, yeah.
No, but it's not like I'm steaming here when I see he has to have Ben Feingold on again. So we know at this point, after 4 Greg Shahadi episodes, that Greg is very lazy and he likes CrossFit and he thinks feminism is a good thing. Like, how much more do I have to listen to this? Rapid chess is better than classical chess? Hot take. No. Thanks for having me. It's been an honor. Anytime.
Excellent, Jan. All right. Good luck with your banter blitz. I hope you still have some material for it.
Yeah. Gonna be tough.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Excellent as always.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone who helps make Perpetual Chess possible. That includes my producer, Matthew Passy, and Geert Vanderveld for supplying the intro music. I also want to thank all of you who have helped spread the word about the show. That includes people who tell your friends and write positive reviews on Apple Podcasts or other platforms. Every little bit helps. But most of all, I want to thank the people who provide financial support. As you guys have heard me say, I spend a lot of time on this show, about 5 hours a week, and even though it's my favorite aspect of the work that I do, I would not be able to do all this without financial support. So most of all, I want to thank my Patreon and PayPal perpetual partners. They are Chessable.com, Ace Vallega, Adam Ralph of ChessEngland.com, Adam Vrancourt, Adrian Gutierrez, Alex Pejas, Benjamin Handelman, Brian Castro of BetterChessTraining.com, Bill Moran, Brett Howard Lynn, Brian Mullis, I am Carlos Perdomo of ChessAtlanta.com, Chad Hilton, Chad Oliver, Chris Balcom, Chris Flanagan, Chris Wainscott, Christopher Baumgartner, Christopher Chabris, Christopher Woods, I am Christoph Zalicki, a.k.a. Chess Explained, Coach J's Chess Academy, Dan O'Hanlon, Daniel Gell, Daniel Ginsberg, Daniel Lucas, Daniel Naylor, Daniel Schaefer, Daniel Vine-E, David Cramley, Dwayne Edmonds, Ethan Smith, I am Elect Donnie Ariel, Frank Tortoris, M.D., Gary Andrews, Gary Lewis, Geert Vanderveld, Gerard Barta, Giovanni Russo, I am Greg Shahadi, Harish Srinivasan, GM Jakob Ogar, James Bonastia, Jason Woolham, Jeff Anderson, Jennifer Valens of OffTheRook.com, Jeffrey Martello, John Fernandez, John Fontaine, John Hartman, John Jernigan, WGM Jen Shahadi, Jen Scream, Jerry Wells, John Thompson, Kare Christensen, WGM Katerina Nemtsova, Kelly Palmer, I am Kostya Kuvutsky, Krishna Gopala Krishnan, Laura Belyavsky, Lucio Casada Silva, Matthew Passy, Martin Habich, Matthew Tedesco, The Mysterious Moonmaster 9000, Mr. Mike Shahadi, Nate Salon, Nathan Webster, GM Pascal Charbonneau, Passy Passanen, Paul Bain, Paul Clarkson, Paul Sweeney, Paulo Santana, Peter Lux, Peter Merrifield, Quality Chess Books, Randall Temple, Ricky Grijalva, Rob Lazorchek of DiplomatChess.com, Robert Steiner, Ryan Stone, Scott Doherty, Scott McKinnon, Steiner Lima, the law offices of Stuart Katz, WGM Tatyev Abrahamian, Thomas Kasper, Thomas Stanix, Thomas Tachenko, Tim Brennan of TacticsTime.com, Tim Seymour, Timothy Ha, Todd Bryant, Tony Rotella, Tyron Price, Victor Vrancourt, FM Zhao Cheng, and Zhivko Stoyanov. Wow, the list is getting long. Let's keep getting it longer, guys. Thanks a lot, and I'll catch you all next week.